This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everybody, to this week's episode of the DocNJock Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Adam the Jock Straczynski, and this is episode 194. This is your go-home show for AEW's All Out. This week, we're going to get some details, a little bit of insight as to what Adam Cole demanded from WWE and why he may not be with WWE ever again. So we're going to have that during the news and notes. Of course, we're going to give you our predictions for what's taking place this Sunday at All Out. And, of course, we're going to take a look at the happenings around the wrestling world. Doing it with me, as always, is the guy who's going to be watching All Out with me on the big screen. He's the one. He's the only. He's my cinnamon to my cinnamon toast, fresh French toast. That didn't even come out right. He's the one. He's the only. He's the Doc, John Macaroon.
The valet that brings it all, baby. I'll be there. I'm going to be eating your food. I'm like, finally, we've been talking about it on the DocNJock podcast. Adam puts together a great meal. Now, just ensure that you're not going to blow up the grill, accidentally turn on the propane too long and forget to push the button. Just make sure I walk in safely and walk out safely, because I'm in my prime, baby. I'm 42, baby. I'm just like CM Punk. I age just fine, baby. I'm aging nicely. I'm feeling good in all areas, so just make sure I walk in safe, make sure the bullets don't fly near me, and keep me safe. So I'm good.
You'll be fine. Don't worry. I'll take care.
I know, because we're going, the mean streets of St. Clair Shores?
That's right. The meanest of streets.
Yeah, baby. Let's get into it. I can't wait. The all-out preview, talking about Raw, SmackDown, NXT, all the good stuff. So let's have at it. Let's get after it.
So I think the biggest thing coming out of Monday Night Raw, and I questioned this in our group chat, but Charlotte and Nia Jax seem to have a pretty stiff match on Monday Night Raw. What the hell happened here? You know, after this match, there were different rumors, different speculations, different conversations about what might have taken place. And there was this thought that maybe it was a pre-work shoot. But if you go back and you rewatch that match like I have, I don't think so. I think something got crossed up in the communications, and both of these women are so damn hard-headed that they ended up taking legit shots on each other. There was a point where Charlotte Flair stopped everything she was doing, and she hauled off and smacked Nia Jax in the face. And then there was a point where Nia Jax just stopped working with her. Like, she was supposed to go off the ropes, and she just stood still, and Charlotte ends up climbing on her back. It was insane watching this unfold live on television. I was like, what the hell is going on? These two have zero chemistry in the ring. So why does WWE keep defaulting and going back to them? On top of that, Nia is a bit of a liability in the ring. I mean, during this match alone, she dropped Charlotte on her head and shoulders at least 4 times. On top of that, before this, Rhea Ripley was in the ring taking on Shayna Baszler, and at the end, Nia had a really unsafe move where she went off the rope and she basically clotheslined Rhea Ripley with the rope across the head and neck, and it looks like that's going to be something that's going to be sore for a couple of weeks. Why does WWE keep doing this?
See, I think that they, like everybody kind of wonders in when you look at the mind of Vince McMahon, the head creative guy where everything falls with him, he likes bigger people. That's just the way it is. He likes to have these attractions go on out there. And obviously Charlotte and Nia Jax are big attractions. And unfortunately their chemistry in the ring is not to the point where you want to keep seeing it. And I think that you're absolutely right. The investment to put her in there with Charlotte, somebody that you consider to be your main draw, I don't think it's worth it, and I think that at some point, and it's okay, I think I kind of liked it. I think that sometimes there's a competitive spirit. Nia probably at some point is just like, I'm tired of being in the mid-card and having my run just happen one time in my whole time with WWE, and so sometimes when you're up against the best, you want to kind of let her know that, hey, I'm here. I'm not just some doormat that you get to call and have things go against. So she let her know that she was there. And it's notorious. I mean, if you remember, Hulk Hogan used to tell a story where, he had his leg broken when he was coming in and he was a hot shot and people told, wrestlers came in and said, oh, you're the hot shot? Boom. He got severely injured. So now it's not like that now in the sports entertainment age, but you have to hold your own. And for Nia Jax, it's unfortunate because of the fact that you don't really see the company really going to build around her. So she's just going to have the career where she's there, kind of like an Awesome Kong, but just more with a little bit.
I think that's probably the best analogy or the best comparison.
Yeah, and she's just going to be there, and she can always have a spot because of her attraction-like status. But I think at some point, if you're a competitor and you're in there with Charlotte, give her what you got, and I think it was cool. But yeah, it just didn't come across the best way on television.
Didn't look good at all. And would it surprise you if I told you that for Monday Night Show, reports are Vince McMahon has never been more pissed off at creative than he was this night, ripping up multiple show ideas and rewriting the show at about 6:45 Eastern Standard Time. I'm not sure if this show went on without an actual script, but they basically had things laid out. He threw it all away and then completely rewrote the show in about an hour and 15 minutes, which would make sense why, honestly, on this show, I'm not sure what your takeaway was on it, but I didn't feel like it really came across all that great. I mean, you had the blow up with Nia and Charlotte, and that was a huge talking point, but for the most part, you had, like a 15-minute intro where everybody was cutting a promo, and you had like 4 matches dissolve out of that. And honestly, still, the best thing on Monday Night Raw is RK Bro. They're the most entertaining thing. In the whole meantime, you've got Matt Riddle garnering all this heat with guys in the back in the locker room. I mean, this Monday Night Raw right now seems so toxic. It's like that workplace where you don't ever want to go, and the moment you walk in, you have baby panic attacks all day long because you hate being there. And your manager is probably banging your boss, and then you're getting yelled at for something that you didn't even have any part in doing. That's what it seems like Monday Night Raw is right now. I mean, what did it come across to you as this seemed like it was kind of a rushed, I guess, layout for storylines? Did it come across to you as maybe being another misfire on Monday Night Raw, which is seeing all-time lows in viewership?
It's just RK Bro and a bunch of everything else,
That's
right?
all it is.
That's all it is. And it's unfortunate, but that's just the way it is. And, it does appear that would be a show that Vince McMahon would not be happy with. But, hey, you got to reap what you sow, bro. If you got a bunch of mid-card people that you don't know what to do with, and he's done it probably so many times, but you would think at this point you would say, okay, you get to the arena at 2, 3 o'clock. Mm-hmm. I would say, okay, guys, have the script to me by 4:15. Let them work through the weekend and early on Monday. Let the writers work, and then you look at it and you take it, and you don't get it out there that you're rewriting stuff. You just enhance it and have it done by 6 o'clock, and then we're ready to go and give it to the talent, and they should be able to handle it and ready to go. I mean, it doesn't seem like it would be that hard to rework the process. I mean, you and I figure shit out in 10 minutes. I'm like, I don't like this. Take it out. Let's do this. Boom, we do it, and it's done. It's weird that after 20 years of television that he hasn't fine-tuned it to the point where if he doesn't like something, he doesn't change it 10 minutes before the show. It's weird. It's run in a way that doesn't seem like it's the most efficient for a multi-billion-dollar company.
Yeah, and on top of all that, we're going to add more to Vince's plate. Like you said, he's been in the business now for over 20 years, closer to 30. And maybe even 40. I'm not even 100% sure. He's been doing this since like the 1970s, right? So longer than that. Maybe 50 years he's been in the business. Anyways, he's been in it long enough to where at this point he should have this as a fine-tuned, well-oiled machine. And
you should think you would think you could have 2 scripts written and Vince picks one. I mean, you don't think that you could just present Vince McMahon with a couple different options like, okay, we could have this match or this match and it would mean this or this. You could have 4 scripts. I mean, you could have him and Bruce sit there at 4:45, sit there with 4 scripts and pick one. I mean, come on. It doesn't seem like it's a matter of fact where you couldn't figure out a way to mainstream it so that the show could be much better. But here's the problem. The problem is the main goal is not to produce the most entertaining product. The goal is to just put something out there that will satisfy the big boss and to just get through the storylines in the manner in which they see fit. It's not about garnering the biggest rating and the biggest pops at certain times, because there are so many wrestlers that, I mean, look at one wrestler in particular, Ricochet. You don't think a guy like that should be a little bit more than where he is, or a guy like Keith Lee, where you get him a couple matches, then you don't see him again? It's weird the manner in which they decide to use talent, and it's unfortunate because now it's coming across on your shows where when stuff happens, it's not that interesting.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And it's one of those things where you already have a guy who is, in my estimation, he's overworked and he's kind of he's past the age of really knowing what is cool, what is interesting, what is hip. And like I say this, and Vince McMahon knows more about wrestling than I will probably ever forget. Same thing with Bruce Pritchard. But now you're going to have two of these, and I'm going to use the word dinosaur in a loving sense here. I mean, like I can only use it like that, right? You have these two dinosaurs, these guys who have been doing this business forever. They're now going to take over another product in the WWE lineup in NXT. That's part of the reason for the whole revamp of NXT is coming, because now this is going to be the Vince McMahon and the Bruce Pritchard version of NXT that we're getting. So now you have a guy and you have his sidekick who are completely overworked and are rewriting scripts at the last minute, putting on what, in my estimation, are awful shows. They're now going to take over the best product in WWE, and that is NXT. And they are removing Triple H.
What?
Now make this their own. Yeah. So Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard will now be the creative driving forces behind NXT. It will no longer be Shawn Michaels, and it will no longer be Triple H. How scared does this make you for this product? Look, out of the three products that WWE gives us every week, NXT is by far my favorite. If I had to pick between two wrestling shows out of the, 6 that we watch, it would be NXT and it would be AEW Dynamite. Those would be the two that I would watch religiously. And it'd probably be AEW over NXT, but NXT is right there with them. NXT is fantastic. And it is because it is gritty, it is a little bit old school. It is the wrestling that me and you grew up on, and it tells stories the way we like stories to be told.
Now,
Vince and Bruce are taking this all over and they're redoing it. The arena is going to look different. It's going to have a completely different feel. It's going to feel like the old NXT. It's going to be like the FCW days.
Okay, cuz you would think that I'm a more positive person where I'm open-minded, have the ability to look at things multiple ways. Mm-hmm. But for the first time ever, I kept watching the NXT rebrand with the commercial, with the thing, and the more I watched it, the more I hated it. The more it kept flashing with the white and the colors and the whatever that logo is, the more I hated it. I said to myself, you had this nice, perfect NXT logo, gold, big, everyone knew what it was. It had the logo kind of represented wrestling. This represents kind of like a freak show circus. Like, what is that? It lights up and then it's just not well at all. I don't like it, and it obviously now is going to mean a lot of bad things for the young talent, because what are you going to now have? 25-minute promos in an hour show? What are you going to have? We're going to have Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole if he comes back, and they're going to open the show with a fight. Oh, we're going to have a tag team match, and they're going to start wrestling, and then, right in the middle, we're going to break it up. It's like, if you're going to bring that same formula to NXT, really, you're just going to drive away the audience there. So it's unfortunate that Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard, I wonder what he's doing, what Pritchard's doing to garner this much respect and renewals, because of the fact the product's ratings have been stagnant. They're not to the point where anybody's really thrilled, and you're going to the point now where you're hearing about what is who and which talent are going to be signed by NXT going forward, and it's stagnant, and it's unfortunate, because I think everybody, when you read the comments, when you go on Twitter, they're all bad, and sometimes they're all littered with AEW stuff too. It's not well right now in regards to at least the social media response to the decision regarding NXT.
Let me ask you this question, and this is kind of how I want to compare old NXT to what we're going to be getting with new NXT. If you had to pick between two WWE Classic Championship belts, if you had to pick between the Stone Cold Steve Austin Broken Skulls belt or the John Cena Spinner belt, what would you go with?
Me personally, I thought the spinner belt was cool. I was just always a fan of the wingtip, but from the two that you described, the two that you said,
let's go wingtip then. Let's go wingtip.
Yeah, wingtip. Wingtip was the best, most classic. Worn by Bret Hart. Oh my God, it's just.
I love that belt too. I thought that belt was great.
I own that belt. Yeah, it's great.
Okay, I would go in the same direction as you. Okay, I feel like what you're going to get now with the NXT is going to be the equivalent of the John Cena spinner belt. Now, didn't necessarily hate it, and it worked for the John Cena character. But when you compare that to all of the other belts that are out there, we'll say the wingtip belt, right? Or even the Broken Skulls belt, or you can even go with the old WCW Heavyweight Championship belt that's on your wall in the office. Okay? We can go with all of those. I'm going to pick any one of those belts over the John Cena spinner belt every day of the week. One is more classic, one looks more real. Here's the thing too. I would take any one of AEW's belts, even the TNT Championship belt that has some color and has been redone 3 or 4 times now since its inception. I would go with that over just about any championship belt on WWE. I think arguably one of the best belts that they have on WWE might be the USA Championship. Or the U.S. Championship. I think that one probably has the most classic look. This is where I'm going with this, okay? You're going to kind of get that circus atmosphere like you have with the John Cena spinner belt. That is basically what Monday Night Raw, SmackDown is. NXT was not that. It was different. It was a different product. It was gritty. It was dark. That's why the arena was so dark. That's why everything was black and gold. You didn't have these bright lights. You didn't have these bright colors. It was more of for lack of a better term, it was like upgraded bingo hall wrestling. It was a small crowd that was intimate. It was loud. It was raucous. It was wrestling's fans. It was wrestling fans. It was like their crack for WWE. It was the closest thing you could get to real wrestling. And it was all wrapped up in black and gold and said NXT, and Triple H was behind it, and it made sense every single week. And we're not going to get that anymore. And that makes me really sad. Makes me really, really sad. Makes me really, really angry. I also have concerns for WWE going forward because I think we all thought the way the lineage would work, it would be Vince McMahon, and there would be this handoff to Triple H, and Stephanie would be in the background somehow, but Triple H would be the guy who would be in control of all of it. And somehow Shane gets skipped in this, and I don't know how Shane gets skipped in all of this, but whatever, Shane gets skipped in all of it, but it would go to Triple H, and we were all waiting for a better wrestling product. I don't think we're going to ever get that. I think at some point, WWE, like all great civilizations before, they just end up cannibalizing themselves. If you go to like the Roman Empire, they just get so big and so massive, they just end up devouring themselves and they fall in on themselves until a new regime comes through and takes over. Maybe AEW is that regime that takes over. I think WWE maybe has too much money, but I think the product is so average to piss poor right now. It is a complete frustration. And I say all that to then lead me into one of the highlights on SmackDown. I think SmackDown has been pretty good lately, but it is a constant weave throughout the show that makes the show watchable. And it's Paul Heyman. And again, Paul Heyman, not a WWE guy. Paul Heyman, an ECW guy, a guy who basically thinks differently about wrestling. He's kind of in that same mindset, that same cloth of a guy like Triple H. I think what has been fantastic and been fascinating is the way Paul Heyman has been able to play this character that is caught in this crossfire between Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. On Friday Night SmackDown, Paul Heyman walking through the arena, going to grab the Usos, and as he's walking through, he's talking on his phone. Caleb Braxton stops him. As he's standing there, Brock Lesnar music hits off of Paul Heyman's phone. Not once, but twice. Paul picks it up, has this really awkward, rushed conversation, goes back into the room to tell Roman Reigns that Brock Lesnar is going to be at Madison Square Garden next Friday. I think this is great. Paul Heyman looks so uncomfortable right now, and it's not just the way he delivers his lines. It is with his body. It is with the little nuances. Paul Heyman is absolutely fantastic in the way that he is playing with Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns, this is some of the best. Just watch Roman Reigns next time Paul Heyman gives him an update. Roman Reigns is doing a fantastic job in this role. Both of these guys, now it's going to be up to Brock Lesnar to not drop the ball here, because both of these guys are getting this over so well. This has been the most impressive and fantastic thing that has been going on. Also, Roman Reigns and Finn Balor had an excellent match last night. It was great. It was absolutely fantastic. But I think the highlight of the show has been the interaction between Roman Reigns, Paul Heyman, and then you have Lesnar kind of on the outside. And caught up in all of this is just Paul Heyman and the way he is carrying this and delivering this show. Really and truly, at this point, Paul Heyman has big, broad shoulders because he's carrying SmackDown in my estimation.
Yeah, it's great. It's a culmination of what that experience. Remember, he was a promoter. He was a valet. Remember, when we were kids, it was Paul E. Dangerously in WCW with the ponytail, with the hat and the ponytail going through the hat. It was cool. He was a badass manager, and then he transitioned into trying to want to be a promoter and everything like that. But he's always had the gift of gab. He's built for the business. And sometimes, you know, you neglect to really respect what Paul Heyman is as a valet and as a complete package. Now, if you watch some of the 24/7, you're always seeing Paul talking to the wrestlers, showing the emotion. He's kind of like that, you know, soft guy that the wrestlers adore versus the tough, gritty boss. And I think that's kind of where he's at. He's the guy that's always talking to the wrestlers, kind of giving them that, hey, you're the shit, get it going, you know you got it, I'm proud of you. And when they're coming through the curtain, they're always embracing Paul, and he's always there. So Vince McMahon, even though he may have adversaries, he does respect those that went up against him. And for Paul to start ECW, I mean, look at it this way. What more respect can you get in the wrestling business than the WWE putting money in your company's pocket? They're like, okay, because remember, ECW was subsidized by WWE. So, big picture, Vince McMahon, even though we don't like the current product, has done so much for other promotions at the same time by facilitating this huge company that he's shown a soft heart. He could have easily said, oh, you're my competitor. I mean, look, when Eric Bischoff shows up in the ring with WWE, you don't think that when this is the guy that tried to put you out of business. That's and true. Actually said your name and said, come out here and fight me, which is something that you would think negatively impact your feelings. But Vince, big picture, understands what's good for business. But like I said, the big complaint, bottom line, is that WWE's corporate, and anything that goes corporate just doesn't have that main gritty feel. And you and I are more like nose to the grindstone guys. We're not into that corporate type of situation. We like the, you know, mom and pop feel, the more personal feel where you feel like, oh man, I could go up to Vince McMahon, give him a hug and be like, bro, why'd you bring back Brock Lesnar? You're paying him too much money. Why didn't you invest in Keith Lee? You had your Brock Lesnar, maybe cheaper. But then you probably get, do not talk to Vince directly. You have to go through somebody else, and we do not do that. You'd be like, okay, bro, whatever. And so that's just the nature of what's going on. But for Paul, it's just great to see him. And I think his promos are legendary. And I think that once he got with Roman Reigns, part of Roman Reigns' success and elevation has to be attributed at least a little bit to Paul Heyman. And give him credit, dude. That's a great character and a guy that will be forever immortalized in wrestling. You're going to see that dude be talked about for a long time when his time is up.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he won't be fully appreciated until he goes away. Because it's like every time you get either a documentary or you get to see some behind-the-scenes stuff on Paul Heyman, you're just blown away by the multiple levels that this guy brings. And like you said, it's not just him coaching up other talent. It's not just him having these conversations with different guys.
It just, don't you think now that naturally he should align himself with Becky, align himself with Charlotte? He should have more than one. I mean, you don't have to have 5, but I think with that character, let him walk out there with one other person. I mean, come on. It's a great elevation. You're one of Paulie's guys. And why not now? You're one of Paulie's gals. You know, let him, you know, or Bianca Belair. That'd be sweet as hell if there was an opportunity for Paulie to work with somebody else. It'd be great.
It would be pretty fantastic. Speaking of fantastic, I thought AEW's Go Home show for Dynamite was absolutely incredible. I thought this was one of those Go Home shows that we are always asking for from WWE. It got you interested in every angle for Sunday, whether it was JR, who was in the ring introducing Chris Jericho, damn near in tears because Chris Jericho has his career on the line this Sunday, whether it was you had Paul White coming out and basically getting massacred in the ring, with a little bit of a turn by the Guns, getting hit with steel chairs in his bad hip, whether it was Young Bucks, Lucha Bros, whether it was Christian Cage, Kenny Omega. Of course, you had CM Punk and Darby Allin. There was so much going on AEW's Dynamite on Wednesday night. It was a fantastic go-home show. Was there one thing, or was there one angle that really kind of made you sit up a little bit and you're like, man, this is awesome. This looks really good.
Dude, the whole setup, dude, All In's going to be great, right?
Yeah.
You have everything going on, and everything is great. I'm intrigued by the retirement match. I think that Chris Jericho is just a figure that you now wonder what's going to happen with and things like that. So, for me, I'm excited for this pay-per-view. I think all in all, like you said, it was one of those things where even the Elite delivering a brutal message to the Lucha Brothers was pretty sick. I thought that, even though the Elite have taken kind of a little bit of a back step, I think it was pretty sweet. Santana and Ortiz defeating FTR was great. CM Punk's promo was great, talking about just being real, that he was nervous.
Have you noticed this about CM Punk? When he comes to the ring and he's wearing tennis shoes, look at his tennis shoes. There's a bit of a code every time he comes out, and I'm going to give you some homework if you have some time. Go back and watch all of his promos. You can go to AEW's YouTube channel, or you can go to the website. You can see all of his promos. Look at his shoes. There are always initials on his shoes. Those initials are usually a representation of what's to come. So whether it be BD, whether it be CF, whether it be whatever. Just look at the bottom of his shoes, basically towards the heel. He'll have in black Sharpie, he will write down different initials. BD, of course, Bryan Danielson. CF, Chicago Forever. And there were a couple of others that alluded to possible returns from other wrestlers. It's very interesting what
I will do that.
Punk
That's
is
sweet.
doing.
No, I did not notice that. That's pretty sweet. The promo I thought was authentic. It was great, and it was just an amazing opportunity. I mean, MJF in a sit-down interview, and then followed by Chris Jericho being interviewed by Jim Ross. I loved Orange Cassidy taking on Jack Evans. Gun Club turned on Paul White. Everything was good. Even Tay Conti defeating Penelope Ford was at least entertaining. I thought the show flowed very well and was great, highlighted with the main event with the Elite defeating Lucha Brothers and Jurassic Express. I thought the show flowed well for a Wednesday evening. I think it was just one of those nights where I think for me at least I was ready, awake, ready to see some things, and it was delivered very, 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 very well. And it was a great go-home show. A+.
So there's one match that is set up for Sunday that going into it, I didn't really care about. I was like, all right, whatever. I like both these guys, but I'm just kind of like, I'm indifferent to it, right? But after Wednesday and then after Friday night, I think Eddie Kingston is forcing you to give a shit about his match with Miro.
Yeah, absolutely. It's sweet as hell. What they did on Rampage was funny. I laughed, with that line, these nuts. That was great. I thought everybody loved it.
So good, man. Eddie Kingston, I think Eddie Kingston is a bit of a treasure. I don't think he gets enough love, especially and I think more of it's just because of his wrestling lineage, like where he came from. He was one of those guys who was like basically underground his entire career. Indie promotion. Never really got the spotlight anywhere. He's in the ring working with guys who have worked for the largest wrestling entity in the entire world, and he's holding his own with them. And he cuts such a good promo, and he doesn't have a great look. Let's be honest. He was wearing this DMX jersey, which I love that he was wearing a DMX jersey. I love DMX. DMX is like my all-time favorite rapper. He's wearing this DMX jersey that is maybe a size too tight for him, with his little belly poking out. And he's in the ring with freaking Miro, who looks like the guy is a 6-week cut away from being a bodybuilder going into a show. So he's like in the ring with this guy, and he is forcing you to care about this match, whether it be with humor, whether it be with seriousness, whether it be with, I'm just going to kick your ass. And I think he's doing an absolutely fantastic job. I want to see this match. This is one of those matches that, like I said, 2-3 weeks ago, I was like, whatever. I was like, this will be, we talk about the P break match. I was like, this will be a good pee break match. I'll get up in the beginning of it and I'll come back and I'll catch the end of it and we'll be fine. But I'm on the edge of my seat now. I want to see how this match goes because Eddie Kingston has forced you to buy in. And I think that is fantastic. I think that tells you how good he is at what he does. You want to get right into the predictions? I was so impressed this week with AEW and what they did.
Yeah, real fast before we get into the prediction, you know that if Eddie Kingston was in WWE, he'd be used worst as the Brooklyn Brawler. You know, he'd be the Brooklyn Kingston, and he'd just be jobbed, and he'd be like, we're going to have him out here talking the baddest thing, and then he'd get squashed by Charlotte, and he'd be like, okay. No, what AEW has done to draw respect is that they've given guys who have done, I mean, who in their right mind would put Nick Cage on television? Who in their right mind would put that guy on television, especially after what was promoted? The guy's like, oh, yeah, I almost died because I cut myself with a glass. And you're like, that guy's in the ring on national television? I'd be like, that's a little bit too raw for us. Nick, come on in and talk to these guys about toughening up. But you're never going to appear on television. And there he is on AEW television wrestling Chris Jericho. So that's what AEW has, that a little bit more of a background feel, and that's what's great. So let's get into it, baby. I'm genuinely excited to come over and watch this pay-per-view to see what happens. I know we're going to pop. I know we're going to see the debut probably of someone, maybe a surprise, maybe someone we know, maybe someone we don't. But it's going to be a fun pay-per-view, and I just think for wrestling fans, it's something fun now to get into, which is the AEW brand, and let's get after it.
All right, so let's start with the biggest match of the night, CM Punk's return match. First time CM Punk is going to wrestle in over 7 years. Going to be taking on Darby Allin. This is a weird one because on one hand, you've got the biggest guy in all of wrestling who's been out of wrestling for 7 years. On the other hand, you've got a guy who, I'm going to say it, he's been a bit of a pillar of AEW. He's been a stalwart for AEW, and he's a young talent, and you're looking to get him a bit of a rub from CM Punk. Who do you have winning this match?
Absolutely, it's CM Punk. There is no way in hell Darby Allin wins this match. There's just no chance. It's just going to be one of those matches that Darby holds its own. Given the time, great psychology, will come away with the rub of being in the ring with CM Punk. CM Punk wins it, baby.
Yeah, I think CM Punk wins it as well. I think, like you said, Darby Allin comes away with the rub. There are always things that can happen in a match that give another wrestler a bit of a head tilt, a little bit of a hat tip, and they come out better for it at the end of it. And I think, I don't know how you have CM Punk lose in Chicago in his first match back. I just don't know. Like, it's almost unfair to book Darby Allin this way, you know? But I'm going to go CM Punk as well. We've got the AEW World Championship match. Kenny Omega versus what I'm going to say is a red-hot Christian. Like you said, they sent the Elite sent a message to not just the Lucha Brothers, but as well to Christian on Wednesday night, hitting him with steel chairs and multiple boots. Who do you think comes out the victor in this? Kenny Omega, does he retain, or is it Christian Cage, who, like I said, been a little bit red hot lately, holding that Impact Championship?
No doubt about it, it's Kenny Omega. It's just not believable just yet that Christian Cage could come in and take the title. I don't see it. I don't see where they would go with that. I think that Kenny Omega needs to have a nice, long, extended run, and we got to start considering who's next to hold the title. I don't think you go back to Jon Moxley. I think you just have to naturally find a way to get it to CM Punk. However that may be in a few months, CM Punk has to be the champion, dude.
I have a different idea.
It's the biggest pop.
Different.
Okay, it's the biggest pop. It's the biggest reaction. He's the guy that whenever the show starts, like, okay, when's CM Punk on? That's the guy that has to be the world champion. Maybe not in the next few weeks, but few months. I think Kenny Omega's done just fine. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it, but I see Kenny Omega winning in a great match.
I think Kenny Omega wins, but I think it's a different wrestler that has to get that championship off of Kenny Omega. It's not Christian at this time. Christian took the Impact Championship, and he did it in a fantastic way. You don't need to give him another belt. You don't need to have a belt collector type wrestler like Kenny Omega was. Instead, you have this long history, and I think you stick to what the original plan was. The original plan was for Hangman Page to take that belt off of Kenny Omega. I think that's the guy who you have take the belt off of Kenny Omega. like you said, CM Punk comes out and he is the most over guy right now. There's no need to put a belt on him. You put a belt on him when that star starts to kind of wane a little bit, when things start to quiet down a little bit for CM Punk. When he comes out and the crowd's not popping at a 14 and it only goes to a 10. When the crowd starts popping more at like a 9 or an 8 and there's a little bit more of a return to normalcy for CM Punk. That's when you put that belt on him. That's when you make him the face of your brand. Until then, Kenny Omega rides out into the sunset until the Hangman comes back and Hangman takes that belt from him. I think it's a much more interesting long-term storyline. The issue is Kenny Omega's dealing with some injuries, and I don't know how beat up he is. We talked about it in prior shows. He's got a torn labrum in his shoulder. That's why a lot of times you'll see him come out and he'll have the cupping scars on the back from getting different work done, different massages, trying to keep that shoulder loose. He's doing as much as he can do to keep it basically stable and allow himself to continue to work. But the original plan was for at All Out for Hangman Page to take that belt off of him. And I think what you do is you wait for Hangman Page to come back from his maternity leave with his wife having their kid, and you allow him to take that belt then. You let Kenny Omega go get healthy for a little bit. And at that point, you see where CM Punk and you see where Hangman are. And at some point, you can have that belt change hands. But that's the direction I would go. Now, we've got the AEW Tag Team Championship match. We've got the Young Bucks and the Lucha Brothers in a steel cage. I think this match is going to be fantastic. This match might actually tear the house down. I think it's time for the Lucha Brothers to be crowned. I'm going Lucha Brothers in this match.
Oh, Lucha Brothers are getting the titles?
That's the way I see it.
Wow, you're giving them the rub, huh? Man. All right, I got to take a stand here. Give me the champs holding on, baby. I mean, I think it's great. Yeah, no, the Lucha Brothers, great story, but are they ready to be championship worthy? Not yet. Retain, baby.
Next match, AEW Women's Championship match. Britt Baker versus Chris Statlander. They did a good job building some interest for this match on Friday night. I think Britt Baker comes out the champ. I think she's been absolutely fantastic as the AEW's Women's Champion. I'm going to go Britt Baker over Chris Statlander.
Absolutely, man. And the way that she's been used, teasing things, great. I think she's among the rising stars that definitely will take advantage of every opportunity that she's gotten, and so far so good.
All right, so now we have the TNT Championship match. This is the match that I said has garnered most of my interest over the last couple weeks and has basically taken me from zero to hero. Miro versus Eddie Kingston. Who do you have winning this match?
It's time. Give the love to Eddie, baby. Give him the title. I think it's time. Give him the love.
I'm in lockstep with you. I think Eddie Kingston wins this match, but don't be surprised. Remember what time it is, okay? We are past 90 days. So a lot of those wrestlers that were let go from WWE, their non-compete is up now. Don't be surprised if Miro comes out with Lana, and don't be surprised if Lana plays a bit of a role in this match. Don't be surprised if maybe Miro's getting beat, she runs down to the ring, interferes a little bit, and maybe that's a way Miro keeps his belt. I don't know. But I'm in lockstep with you. I want to see Eddie Kingston win this. Like I said, he's got me pumped, man. I think he's a guy who, he deserves to wear a belt. Even if it's for a short time, he's a guy who deserves it. All right. They're calling it the final fight. Chris Jericho has put his career on the line against MJF. Neither one of us understand this. I'm going to pick for you because Chris Jericho's winning this. There's no way he's freaking retiring.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris Jericho in a great match.
All right, Jon Moxley versus Satoshi Kojima. Kojima? I don't know. I mispronounced that. He's from New Japan. I messed that all up. I think Jon Moxley wins this.
Yeah, Jon Moxley gets the rub, and it's going to be great. Good match. Jon Moxley gets over, baby.
Does it bother you a little bit that Jon Moxley at times seems to kind of go to this, I don't want to say it's like Nick Gage level of backyard brawler, but it's like when he doesn't have anything cool going on, he's like, let's get into death matches and let's fight. Does that bother you at all?
No, but that's what he was. That's what he wanted to do. He wanted to express all ranges of his personality. Let's see how he does it.
To me, it just sometimes seems a little bit trite. That's all. Just gets a little bit old. All right, Paul White, QT Marshall. I think Paul White wins this. Him and his surgically replaced hip. I think the Giant remains supreme and is the biggest man in the ring. I'm going Paul White.
Give Paul White a victory, baby. He deserves to see what it tastes like to get a W on television.
All right. We have the Women's Casino Battle Royale. Now, this will be your pre-show. This is what you're going to start your wrestling extravaganza off with. It's going to feature 21 entrants in total. It's going to feature the likes of Thunder Rosa, Ty Conti, Julia Hart, Big Swole, The Bunny, Red Velvet, Penelope Ford, Nyla Rose, Diamante, Jade Cargill, just to name a few. Who do you have winning this? Now remember, if you pick the right person to win this, you get a bonus point. So this is a way for you to make up some distance on me here. You can cut down my 3-point lead down to possibly 2 if you win everything here, and then next thing you know, you're within 1. You're within striking distance. So who do you have winning this one?
I don't know why the name Thunder Rosa just keeps popping up in my brain. I just think that she's the biggest name that I think would take advantage of the opportunity. So Thunder Rosa for me.
All right, I'm expecting us to get a couple. I think this is a great way to get a couple of new debuts, a way to introduce a few new wrestlers. And one of those new wrestlers is going to be Ruby Soho. And I think Ruby Soho is going to win this. Remember Ruby Riott from WWE? Yeah, she's going to AEW. I think she's in this match, and I think she wins this match. What a way to set her up for success.
Wow. Absolutely.
Like, wow.
I no, you actually surprised me. I had not seen the circles of women that are on their way to AEW. So, now I'm excited to see that as well. That's nice.
Yeah, look, I don't know. I have a feeling. I think that's how this is going to play out. She might not win it, but I think she's going to show up at the show. Like I said, man, there's so many wrestlers where their contracts are coming due. I think their contracts come due, either they came due on Friday or they came due on Saturday, so it makes them eligible to wrestle on Sunday. It's really the way the timeline works. It was interesting what WWE did. All right, Orange Cassidy, Chuck Taylor, Wheeler Yuta, and Jurassic Express versus Matt Hardy, Private Party, Jack Evans, and Angelico. Who do you have winning this?
Oh my gosh, this is tough. It's going to be nice, huh? Nice feud, nice the way with everything going on. Let Matt Hardy have a nice victory with this team.
Oh, I'm going completely opposite of you. I'm picking for Alyssa. You'll see she'll pop extremely hard when Jurassic Express comes out. She loves Jurassic Express. So she also loves Orange Cassidy. So I think Orange Cassidy, Chucky T, Wheeler Yuta, and J.E. win this match. All right, so the difference, the ones that me and you are different on. All right, I've got Jurassic Express. You've got Matt Hardy. I've got Ruby Soho winning the Women's Casino Battle Royale. You've got Thunder Rosa, which I think is a fantastic pick by you, by the way. Otherwise, we are pretty much in lockstep, except for the Lucha Brothers and the Young Bucks in their steel cage match. This is going to be interesting. I hold a 3-point lead over you in the picks. So this will be interesting to see how this plays out this Sunday. I think it's going to be a fantastic show. I can't wait for it. I can't wait for you to join me. I can't wait to hopefully entertain you. Hopefully I feed you well. Hopefully you have a great time. I'm looking forward to Sunday night all out. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm easy to entertain no matter what. Even if the feed cuts out, whatever happens, I'll be happy no matter what because we'll just be chilling. And bottom line, drinking will be going down. So
that's right.
At the very least, we're going to have a fun Sunday evening.
Dude, I've got this. So I'm not a huge fan of scotch at all. I don't like scotch. But Alyssa bought me this. I do like whiskey, and I know you like whiskey, and I know you like bourbons. Alyssa bought me this barrel-aged scotch, and it's in a whiskey barrel. It has a bit of a scotch flavor. I don't like the smoke from scotch is what I don't like, but it finishes like a whiskey. It's very, very good. Like, I really enjoy it. It's one of those drinks where you had a hard day at work, you just come home, you want to crack a bottle. It's a 14-year aged bottle of scotch. We'll share some of this. I think you'll enjoy it.
Nice, absolutely. And now, as you were talking, I was thinking, man, I got to get Alyssa's cell phone and get in the kitchen and be like, I'm John and I'm 40 pounds overweight. Here's my diet. McDonald's on Monday, Taco Bell on Tuesday, couple coffees in the middle of the afternoon. Here's what you don't want to do. And then you got the cheese curls and you got the French fries and you got the couple orders there. This is what you don't want to do when you're, trying to lose weight. And I'm in a prime example of what you do when you overeat carbs. Don't do this. It'll be a fun time. I look forward to it. All right, cuz, hit me with this week's professional wrestling news and notes. What made your list?
So it's a real short one this week, and I think it's pretty telling on what's going on with WWE. So some details are coming out on Adam Cole and some of his non-negotiables with his contract. Per Fightful Select, before his contract came up, You remember, Adam Cole had some conversations with Vince McMahon as well as some higher-ups in WWE about working out a new contract. They wanted him. They promised him the moon and the stars. But Cole made it very clear to WWE that he would not give up his Twitch channel, and that was a non-negotiable. It was noted that higher-ups weren't excited to talk with him about it because they knew they had zero leverage in this situation. With everything going on with AEW, remember, Britt Baker works in AEW. That's his girlfriend. All right. She's even teased that Adam Cole is showing up this weekend. So it's interesting because, again, his contract's expired. Remember, WWE took away all the talent's Twitch feeds a few months ago. That was part of the reason why Zelina Vega was like, okay, she wasn't willing to give hers up. So Adam Cole said, look, if we're going to do a contract together, I'm not giving up my Twitch feed. You're not taking that away from me. I must have that. AEW doesn't have any of those restrictions. If you're an indie wrestler, you don't have any of those restrictions. It's very interesting that WWE may have drawn a line in the sand for one of the biggest free agents on the market and said, no, if you're coming to work with us, you are giving up your Twitch feed. And it'll be interesting to see what Adam Cole decides to do because he's been very vocal on his Twitch feed where he said, I'm never giving this up. I don't care what it is. I'm not letting them take this away from me. I love you guys because he just has this interaction with his fans. It's a way for him to connect. I think it's great. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. If he shows up on Sunday, it shows you which line he drew in the sand as well. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But that's it for this week's wrestling news and notes. Thanks for listening.
Make sure you follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ, especially this weekend. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. Thanks, everybody, for subscribing anywhere, any place that you go to listen to your favorite podcast. Make sure you hit us up and you find us. All you got to do is type in Detroit Sports Podcast, and you will find one of the premier podcast networks in town, going strong since 2013. Thousands of broadcasts, thousands of engaged listeners, and we greatly appreciate each and every one of you, especially those that love the professional wrestling. It shows up everywhere. You see it. All the athletes love the belts. All the athletes love to watch. And sometimes when you're at a show, you'll even see a couple members of the pro teams locally, from the Tigers, Lions, Pistons, and Wings. Everybody loves themselves some professional wrestling, and especially Doc and Jock. Thank you for staying tuned this week. We hope you appreciated it, and we hope you stay tuned and listen to next week's Doc and Jock Wrestling Podcast.